Sexual and reproductive health is an important topic that affects the lives of many people. The media occupies a critical role in Amnesty International's campaign model. It is against this background that the international organization held a sexual and reproductive health rights capacity building training for journalists.
We have invited a number of young journalists, and we are training them on sexual and reproductive health rights. We have adopted 2 global priority areas, of which the second one focuses on equality and non-discrimination. We are campaigning on 3 intersecting factors, that is sexual reproductive health rights, access to sexual reproductive health rights services, obstetric fistula as a maternal morbidity, and child marriages as a form of gender-based violence. You find that these 3 intersecting factors are closely interlinked, and we are here today to train journalists on sexual reproductive health rights so that the media is used as a tool to educate people about their sexual reproductive health rights, to educate people about a maternal morbidity called obstetric fistula, which is an issue that affects young women who fall pregnant at an early stage.
Today we are training journalists on sexual and reproductive health and rights, and my focus really has been around SRHR and the law in Zimbabwe.
Nasi pane workshop iritwa sexual reproductive health.
One of the major issues highlighted during the training was obstetric fistula. It is essential for journalists to be knowledgeable about obstetric fistula, a serious condition that affects millions of women, leading to lifelong incontinence, shame, and social isolation.
This topic is very important for journalists because, like I indicated during our training, that obstetric fistula is a condition that is shrouded in a lot of mystery. So we would want journalists to help us to go into the communities and explain what causes obstetric fistula, what are the drivers of obstetric fistula, and how can we, as civil society organizations, as communities, and as government, help prevent the scourge of obstetric fistula.
Today's workshop is actually addressing journalists from all sorts of media on the subject of sexual and reproductive health rights. These are very important, and they have not received as much recognition as they should from the media, from society, and from the general populace. People walk around not realizing what trauma young girls are being subjected to, especially when they're violated through harmful cultural practices, and people think it's normal for young teenagers, 12, 13-year-olds, even 10-year-olds to give birth. What people don't realize is that it creates a condition called fistula. Fistula is being dealt with at this workshop. It's a subject that I have personally known about for a long time, and it has never received enough attention in the media or just generally by society.
By learning about the causes, symptoms, and treatment of obstetric fistula, journalists can raise awareness on this often overlooked issue, thereby helping women get the treatment they require.
Obstetric fistula is an injury that happens at birth. In other words, it is a maternal morbidity, and it is an abnormal connection between the tissues that connect the birth canal and the tissues that connect the birth canal to the urethra and to the rectum, resulting in what is called fecal incontinence or urinary incontinence, which means the person who has this condition cannot control urine, they cannot control feces. So this is obstetric fistula, and it comes about as a result of obstructed labor.
Knowledge, laws, and regulations surrounding sexual and reproductive health rights help in shaping the public discourse on these issues. By understanding the legal landscape, journalists can better inform the public about the rights and protections that exist.
Journalists need to be aware of our criminal laws, particularly in relation to sexual and reproductive health. When we are looking at sexual violence especially, because we do have the right to not to be forced or coerced into any sexual activity. So I feel that our journalists should be aware of what our law says around violations to our people's sexual rights. And then I also think that journalists should be aware of some of the limits or the gaps that are within their law, so that as they communicate, they can highlight on these to the public and also to policymakers.
Workshop yataita nhasi taona isusu zvakakosha sevatori venhau kunyora uye kuziva maringe nezviri kuitika mukati mevanasikana endezve nemhosva dzinova dziri kuparwa kana kuti dzingava dzichiparwa vanhu vasingazivi kuti imhosva.
Knowledge on legal frameworks by journalists help them spot gaps in the law or areas where the law is not being implemented correctly. An understanding of the law can also help journalists craft better stories that accurately reflect the legal realities of sexual and reproductive health rights.
If you're looking at our laws, if you look at our laws particularly on termination of pregnancy, you find that although our laws permit people who have been sexually violated to terminate, unfortunately not all sexual crimes are covered. In the end, we have children who are victims of sexual violence not being able to access termination because it's not rape. We also have our laws that are not recognizing date rape as a form of rape, but at the same time recognizing marital rape. So you find that girls who encounter date rape do not have adequate protection of the law. And then of course we do have certain laws that the Constitutional Court has said they are no longer in application, but you find that they are still part of our laws.
From the term itself, child marriage, I think that term should be abolished. There's no child's bride. A child cannot be a bride, so the term should not exist. Marriage cannot be applied to a child. So child marriage is a misnomer. That term should cease to exist. Whatever abuse is done to a child is exactly that. It is child rape. Let us not sanitize it with terms like marriage and bride. Please, Ndapota.
Obstetric fistula has got an array of human rights human rights issues. You can imagine the life of a girl or a woman with obstetric fistula. There's the physical health itself, because usually the genitalia is usually wet, so they develop sores. So the right to health is affected. The freedom of association and assembly is affected, because the woman cannot, cannot travel to areas where other women are going, be it at church, be it at any other assembly that they may need to go. And the right to work. The obstetric fistula has got a huge impact on the right to work, because nobody wants to employ a person with this condition where there is uncontrollable leakage of urine or feces.
Community programs that focus on sexual reproductive health rights are crucial for empowering individuals and improving public health. These programs can provide access to critical information and services on sexual health and reproductive health rights, and such information can reduce stigma and discrimination, promote gender equality and healthier communities.
The main symptom of fistula for young girls is that they go around smelling very bad because of something that is not their fault. And in our society, victim shaming seems to be the norm. At the end of the day, these girls are not smelling because of anything that they did wrong. They are smelling because they were wronged by the society. They were wronged by the society. They are the victims. The condition is where your vagina and your anus are doing the same thing, where you are excreting feces out of your vagina or urine. You become incontinent, and as a result the person smells to high heaven. Now you know how society will deal with that. the victim will be shamed.
We go to communities and train people about the issues that I've already raised. We are a campaigning organization, and part of the work that we do is to do what we call human rights education, which focuses on increasing people's knowledge around sexual reproductive health rights issues, which also focuses on changing mindsets and attitudes around issues to do with sexual reproductive health. So we go into communities, we use various methods. We use theater, we use formal trainings, we use music, we use any form of art to educate people about sexual reproductive health.
There are a number of challenges that journalists face when reporting on sexual and reproductive health issues. There is a perception that these issues are only of interest to a small population and not worthy the investment of time and resources, and in some cases, editors simply don't understand the importance of these issues and don't see the value in covering them.
Okay, you'll find that issues to do with sexual reproductive health are at times not juicy as compared to issues to do with politics. So you find that the issues are not understood, and we thought that it was very important because the media is very important for us because they set the agenda. So we thought that it was important to have them trained so that they can go and write stories and increase people's knowledge. They go and write stories, raise awareness, and also advocate for issues that are affecting more than 50% of the population globally and locally.
I work on a lot of documentary projects around sexual and reproductive health. And a lot of them have not really paid enough attention to fistula. And I am very keen to start paying a lot more attention to it than has been paid. I guess I am as guilty as any other member of the media for not highlighting it enough. But platforms need to be available for the condition to be highlighted. It needs to be made more public. I've realized that a lot of the male species in our country are simply completely unaware of it.
Today's training was about fistula, which is affecting a lot of women and which is highly not reported on. So the issue is complex, and wakadzi wakawanda vari kuaffectwa this problem. After they give birth, they don't have information on this condition. So me as a journalist, I am going to report more on these human interest stories, which a lot of people don't know about. I've learned a lot and will have more impactful stories and articles which are going to help a lot of women and mothers to get help at hospitals.
After training journalists on sexual and reproductive health rights, Amnesty International hopes for a change in perception by editors and media organizations. This shift will lead to more quality stories on sexual and reproductive health rights being published.
Pane zvatadzidza nhasi tichanyora nhau dzine maringe nekuchengetedzwa kwevana oro kwevanhukadzi. Izvo zvichabatsira nyika nevose vari kumativi mana enyika vachinzwa nekuona mararamiro avatingaite izvo zvinoita kuti dambudziko riderere mukati memhosva dzinenge dzichiparwa mukati mevanasikana vedu.
After this training, we hope to see more media houses speaking about obstetric fistula as a maternal morbidity. We hope to see the media influencing policy around sexual reproductive health rights. We also hope to see the media raising awareness on issues to do with the three intersecting factors.
It's quite important for journalists because journalists have got a big platform and they've got the correct audience and a wider reach in terms of audience. So it means that by teaching them around SRHR, they are able to communicate to people that we wouldn't normally be able to reach under normal circumstances. So having journalists having the correct SRH knowledge is part of awareness raising, is also part of sharing knowledge with policymakers and even with rights holders as well.
From here, we hope that journalists will document the stories of these women that are living with this condition, with the hope that more resources will be poured into the maternal health system of our country.
After training journalists on sexual and reproductive health rights, it is important to make follow-ups. This can be through regular meetings with journalists to discuss their progress and challenges, providing accurate information and offering continued education and opportunities. Zimbabwe has taken the right steps towards ending the death penalty as Cabinet passed a private membership bill with the aim of abolishing the death penalty inherited from British colonial rule.
Cabinet yakabudisa shoko rokuti inobvumirana nekuti mutongo werufu ubiswe munyika yeZimbabwe. Chinhu chakanaka zvikuru ichocho nokuti Zimbabwe sekuziva kwenyu kubva muna 2005 hakuna munhu akatongerwa parufu ati awana mutongo uyoyo. Vanhu vacho vakangogara ezvino tinonzwa kuti makumi matanhatu nevatatu 63 varimo mujere. Zvakanaka kuti mitongo uyoyo dai wachichinjwa waitwa life imprisonment, jere roupenyu.
Ndautenda Minister weJustice vaziyambi and also necabinet kuti vakabvuma nyaya yatanga tamuvha muparliament yekuti nyika ifambe nenyaya yekubvisa mutongo werufu mukati menyika ino. Saka zvakaitwa nehurumende zvaakubatsira zvakabuda zviri kufambiswa kuparliament kuti tibvise mutemo iwoyo.
Move towards the right direction, a move towards what the international and the rest of the community and the rest of the countries are moving towards, to abolish the death penalty, because we believe that death penalty is a violation of the right to life. It is inhuman and degrading treatment. So it is a move towards the right direction and something that has been long overdue.
Now that there is a proposal to abolish capital punishment, which came after months of debate in Parliament, Amnesty International held a training workshop for journalists meant to equip media personnel on the death penalty.
Training journalists and sensitizing them on the issue around death penalty, in particular the nexus between death penalty and human rights.
This has been a very enlightening workshop, and where we've gotten to learn more about the death sentence, and I think it's very apt that we are having such conversations, more so after Cabinet approved the principles to remove the death sentence. It goes hand in glove with what many organizations have been calling for, because it's an inhuman thing to kill another human being. Only God should be able to kill, not kill per se, but when the time has come, a human being should just go to dust, as dust is dust.
Media practitioners have the power to shape public opinion and create awareness, and the training workshop was important in ensuring that the media disseminate the correct information on the death penalty.
Today's workshop with journalists is a key moment for us, because the death penalty has been a long-standing campaign since 1977, and by then just a few countries had abolished the death penalty. But today we see that more than a third of the world's countries have abolished the death penalty. So we believe and understand that the media play a very important role in pushing the human rights agenda around the death penalty. So we thought it was prudent for us to bring various media personalities into one room and to have a conversation so that they have a clear understanding why we are saying that the death penalty should be abolished in Zimbabwe.
We believe that the journalists are the ones that take information to the people, and we want the people to know that death penalty is not just a subject, but it is an issue that is related to human rights. It's a human rights issue, and it borders around one of the important human rights, which is the right to life.
So there are many misconceptions about the death penalty, and I think there is a lot of information that is not in the public domain when it comes to this particular subject. So as a journalist, it is my duty to go back and conscientize and educate the communities the community to which I am part of, about the death penalty, so that when these issues are being debated in places like the parliament, for example, they know what will be taking place. So I think, yes, I'll go back to my community and I'm going to spread word about abolition of the death penalty.
The death penalty is irreversible, meaning that there is no way to correct mistakes when there is new evidence after someone has been executed. Research has shown that the death penalty is an inefficient deterrent, with studies showing that it does not lead to a decrease in crime.
Hakuna munhu ane mvumo yekubvisa nekudambura upenyu hwemunhu. Even zvakare hurumende chaiyo haina mvumo yekuuraya munhu. Saka tikuti mutemo wekuti munhu adambura ziso ngaadamburwewo ziso hausi mutemo wakanaka munyika uye haukwanisi kupa ugaro hwakanaka mumaZimbabwe.
So we look at the death penalty as a human rights issue, because it is a violation of the basic right, which is the right to life. And when the right to life is taken away, all other rights are also taken away. And the death penalty is also an inhuman, degrading form of punishment, which does not have a place in today's justice system. We believe that it is cold-blooded murder by the state in the name of justice. So we are saying that the death penalty should be abolished because it is not in line with the global trends of abolition. Again, when you look at the death penalty, particularly from a historical perspective in Zimbabwe, the death penalty was never a part of our society. The death penalty is a colonial relic that was used by the Rhodesian government to take away the lives of those who were fighting for the freedom of this country.
Some people argue that the death penalty should remain in place, although it is inhuman. The proponents of capital punishment often point to the need for retribution and justice for victims and their families.
Vanogona kurwadziwa toti kana paine munhu auraya hama yavo, asi chanofana kuti vaongorore ndechekuti mutemo wanga uripo zvinezvi wekuti vanhu vaurayiwe, but vanhu vanga vachiramba vachiuraya. But pamutemo wedu pakugara kwedu pasi tigare, isusu taiziva kuti kana munhu akanga aita mhosva yekuuraya kana kutora upenyu hwemunhu, chivanhu chedu chaive nekuripisa, nekuti wainzi ukatadza kuripa ngozi yaigona kukubata. Saka iwoyo mutemo watanga tinawo muupenyu hwedu hwevanhu ndo watofungiza kuti unokwanisa kuti vanhu vararame. Chimwe chamunofana kuona ndechekuti nyaya yekuti munhu auraya ngaaurayiwe hazvibatsiri even vaurayirwa vacho, nekuti pamwe unenge waurayirwa baba vangu vachishanda basa, then vana vasara vonosara vachitambura, pane kuti dai munhu yaendeswa kujeri asi zvakare vakwanisa kupo cheuviri kumhuri yashayikirwa nababa.
Okay, we really understand that there is a retentionist argument around the death penalty. They have their own reasons, but you find that they argue that the death penalty is deterrent. But as an organization that has been working on this issue for more than 5 decades, our research shows that the retentionist argument around the deterrence and around limiting or deterring crime is not scientifically proven. There are other ways via which crimes can be reduced in a country other than the death penalty.
As the country braces for the bill to pass, it is important to note that currently women in Zimbabwe cannot be sentenced to death.
Mamiro wakaita zvinezvi ndeyekuti madzimai ese anova ndiwo vakawanda munyika avatongerwe rufu. But also mutemo unotaura kuti munhu wese ane 21 years and below, even uri murume, hautongerwe rufu. Uye unotaura zvakare kuti kana uine makore 70 and above uri murume hautongerwe rufu. Zvinoreva ndizvo kuti tinongoone vanhu 32% venyika ino yeZimbabwe vanokwanisa kutongerwa rufu, nekuti vamwe rudhendo rwese 68% yenyika haikwanisi kutongerwa rufu.
The current law that we are using at the moment, which is the Constitution of Zimbabwe, provides that only men who are between the age of 22 to 69 can be given the death penalty if they kill someone in an aggravated way. So what that means is someone who's 21 years and below or someone who's 70 and above do not have the death penalty at the moment. So the advocacy around abolition of the death penalty is really targeted at men between the ages of 22 to 69, because we believe that the death penalty should be abolished for everyone and for all crimes, regardless of the offense.
Now that the Cabinet has agreed to end the death penalty, Parliament must now ensure the death penalty is abolished by voting it to pass.
Take note of the bill, and we also take note of the Cabinet approving the bill for the abolition of the death penalty. We wait and see the next move by the government, but we want to acknowledge the steps that have been taken by the Zimbabwean authorities, particularly when we look at the legal framework where the death penalty scope was limited in the 2013 constitution. We are hoping that the death penalty will be totally removed from the statutes of Zimbabwe.
The new bill, when enacted, prohibits courts from imposing a death penalty, and when the Supreme Court hears an appeal against capital punishment emanating from the High Court, it is obliged to replace it with another sentence.
We wait to see what the executive and the parliamentarians are going to do with regards to abolishing the death penalty. As Amnesty International, we advocate for total abolition of the death penalty. That means for everyone and for all crimes. So we are waiting for that to happen.
Parliament and also government yati yakupindira zvakureva ndizvokuti sezvomuchiziva kuti mutemo wenyika unoitwa neparliament asi unofanira kuzosainwa napresident. Isusu taita rombo rakanaka rekuti government, cabinet napresident vabvuma nyaya yekuti mutemo udi ushande upinde. Saka tariso yedu ndeyekuti mwezi miviri iri kuteera mutemo unenge uenda muparliament wapedza uye wasainwa napresident kuti uve mutemo wenyika ino yeZimbabwe.